welcome to Elevate Your Wealth. I'm your host, Casey Elkins, managing partner at Elevated Financial Management. I'm here with Mark Stimson and Brian Frucci. How you doing, Brian?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Nice to have you. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about today's show where we just want everybody to feel that they're going to be okay in retirement. That's what really we're going to focus on today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what this whole episode is about, right? The question becomes, and we hear this all the time, am I going to be okay? Yeah. Right? We hear that time and time again. Folks come into the office. That's what everybody wants to know. Right. Am I going to be okay in retirement? And the real answer to that is yes, if we make sure that we take care of these 5 key areas, right? So that's what we've put together in the show today. Yeah. Let's jump into it. I want to make sure that we give everybody at home the most that we can. So the first one, this is the idea, I'll give this to you, Brian, protect what you've saved, right? We want to make sure that we do that.
Absolutely.
Why is that so important? How does that affect retirees?
It's critical to protect what you've saved simply because obviously when you're retired, you're no longer working. You don't have the time to replenish your account if you have a bad time in the market. So I tell my grandchildren, I said, wisdom is the anticipation of consequences. So if you understand how it affects your portfolio, how it affects your long-term satisfaction and happiness in your retirement, having a protected portfolio is exceedingly important. Some people will sacrifice growth to get safety. Other people will sacrifice safety to get growth. Both of those extremes really don't work.
That's right.
And one thing I think is exceedingly important is we can't be myopic. We can't just think stocks and bonds are going to be the answer. There are many other financial products that offer guarantees and security because sometimes, like in 2022, the stock market was off, the bonds were off.
Yeah.
If you don't have an alternate place to go and you're taking income, you're hurting yourself. So, and again, it's called sequence of returns. We've talked about that, where if you're unlucky enough to have too much risk and you have a bad time in the market, you're pulling up your tomato plants.
Right.
You're not taking the fruit, you're pulling them up and they'll be gone. And so it's just critical. It's the most important thing, I think, is to make sure you understand your risk, you control that risk, you have good shock absorbers in your portfolio, and also you have an alternate place to get income when the market isn't providing. We all have to have skin in the game. If we're going to be in the market, we're going to have some skin in the game. 10% potential losses, we have to have some. But the 20, the 30, the 40, the 50% losses will just absolutely blow up your retirement.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And that's it. I mean, we have to pay attention. We have to know the risk that we're taking. You want to add something to that, Mark?
Yeah, I think it's critical that our viewers understand you cannot invest at 60 or 65-year-old like you're 30 or 35, because if you do, it's probably going to backfire. But the problem, if it backfires when you're 35, we have the time horizon, right, to make up for the losses. That is the exact opposite in retirement planning, right? If you suffer that big loss, you may not recover from something where you lose 20, as Brian just mentioned, 20, 30, 40% of your portfolio, and which means that you're going to run out of money long before you ever planned on that. And that's why protecting against the downside is what we really try and focus on in our office.
Yeah, and you've worked so hard to build this nest egg, right? And as you mentioned, your time horizon is different, right? Things have changed, and so we want to make sure that we're adjusting accordingly. And ultimately, why did you save that money? You saved it to produce some level of income, right? That's what it's all about.
Exactly right.
And as time goes on in retirement, your income level does not drop. But if the market is dropping and that's where you're pulling income from, your income's going to have to drop. Otherwise, you're going to run out of money. But in reality, your actual income need is increasing in retirement, right? Because of inflation, potential higher taxes, things of that nature. And so we really have to make sure that we have a plan to address those items. You want to add something?
Yeah, one more quick thought is what's more impactful to your retirement when you're starting your retirement? Is it to make 50% or to lose 50%? Right? In the market.
Exactly.
Obviously, losing 50% when you're retired or pre-retiree is the most devastating.
Yes.
And you just can't do it. You can't bleed in retirement.
No, you
Right.
can't. Yeah,
That's
we've got to
exactly right.
protect what we've saved. And this
Yeah.
is where we talk about this mind shift all the time, right? Where folks have been savers for years
Yeah.
and years. And they're used to kind of chasing that high return, right?
Yeah.
They've been
Mm-hmm.
contributing, dollar cost averaging, and they get in this mode, and they've been doing that for quite some time. And ultimately, that was the right decision, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily that they were doing anything
Right.
wrong for those years,
Yeah.
but now that they're approaching retirement, how they deal with those funds has to change because they're no longer contributing, they're taking assets out of the account.
Yep.
And so we want to make sure that we're adjusting accordingly and dealing with that and actually changing our mindset from being a saver to being a spender and doing it in the right way. And this is where it all comes down to having a plan. Having something that can walk us through that in retirement so we know what we're doing and make sure that our investments are structured correctly, right? So we don't set ourselves up to end up in a financial pitfall, in a big situation that's going to cause a problem for the rest of our lives. So to actually address that for the folks at home, we do have a special offer. Mark, would you share with them what that is?
Yeah, for our next 5 callers, we know that maybe some of the things we're talking about, especially protecting your income, we've talked about volatility. We know you're worried about things, you're anxious. We want you to just come into our office and have a conversation with us. Leave your checkbook at home. So if you've saved at least $250,000 or more, pick up the phone and call 844-342-7142, because if you do that, we're going to develop a written plan that's going to be done by our team of certified financial planners. And we're going to address the things that we know are causing you some concern. Making sure your income is guaranteed for life. Are you going to have that? What about your taxes, tax strategies? You're totally worried. We know taxes are going to go up. So how and when are you going to take money from certain assets that you have? That's so critical, right? What about your Medicare and your possibly Medicaid issues that could pop up because we haven't addressed long-term care? So please pick up the phone and call 844-342-7142. Come in and just have a conversation with us, because what you see on the screen right now is exactly how we'll be when you come in and see us in our office.
Thanks, Mark. As Mark said, it all comes down to having a plan. That's what creates success in retirement. That's what creates success in life. Having a goal, working towards it, making those changes. Don't hesitate to pick up the phone. Get your complimentary written financial plan today. 844-342-7142, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. We're going to talk about 4 more key areas that we have to make sure are addressed to set ourselves up successfully for retirement. Come right back to Elevate Your Wealth.
Call 844-342-7142 right now for your own written financial plan. Having a clear path to retirement is more than just your savings. This review will include a complete risk analysis on your portfolio, a deep dive fee X-ray to determine how much you are and could be paying on those investments, a tax reduction report, and healthcare and legacy planning for you and your estate. To begin your retirement readiness review, call Casey, Mark, and the team at 844-342-7142 or use the QR code to schedule your appointment right away. Whether your retirement is coming soon or you want to be certain you can stay retired, the written financial plan will help guide you through your retirement planning journey. Call Mark Casey and the team at 844-342-7142 or use the QR code to schedule your meeting today.
Welcome back to Elevate Your Wealth. Again, I'm Casey Elkins, joined by Mark Stimson and Brian Frucci. We're talking about 5 key areas to make sure that you're going to be okay in retirement. We've addressed protecting what you've saved. Now we want to talk about having an income plan. So Mark, share with us just really basically, what does an income plan include, and why is that so important? How do we set ourselves up for success in retirement?
Yeah, this is one of the things that we see all the time. People don't have a written plan, and we believe it's critical to being successful when it comes to retirement. What is that going to include? Well, what we're going to do, and our team of certified financial planners are going to look at so many different areas that a lot of people are not wanting to discuss or deal with. We're going to make sure, where is your income going to come from? Is it going to be just Social Security based? Are you going to be fortunate enough to have a pension? See, so we're going to determine those so that with that income known, we're going to be able to do a cash flow analysis for you to make sure that you have enough money to pay your bills every month, right? And so that's important. That's only part of it. Then we're going to make sure inside the plan that we're maxing out their Social Security, right? We want to maximize the Social Security so that they can get the most out of a bucket of money that they've contributed their whole working life. Then we're also going to be addressing what are we doing when it comes to legacy planning, right? How do you want to pass assets to the most loved people in your life and in your family, which is usually our children and grandchildren? And I know that you have a thought about this, Brian, about what is important in having a plan as well.
Well, I think without a plan, you're subject to the whims of the market, which we cannot control, obviously. I think that without a plan, let me just give you an example. True confessions, they say, are good for the soul. I have a horrible sense of direction. I do. I get lost in my own bathroom. If I come out of a Target bathroom, I inevitably turn the wrong way, right? So if somebody parachuted me into the middle of the Canadian wilderness, I'm going to want GPSs. I'm going to want guides. I'm going to want someone to help me navigate getting out of the Canadian wilderness. It's no different in retirement. And it can't just be a one and done. We want to meet with you and look at different iterations of your retirement plan as things change throughout the years. Yeah. So I think it's important that you realize that it's just not a one and done, and you can put it away because life circumstances change, and that affects our retirement.
You're right. It's not static, right? It has to be
important.
adjustable. It has to be changing with us. Yep. And this is why you need that advisor that can help you walk through that retirement, right? Because it's not a one and done. We can't. It's not a George Foreman grill. We can't set it and forget it, right? We have to make changes over time. So it's really important. Now we'll add to this list. We're kind of going down these 5 key areas that we need to address. Mark, I'll pitch this back to you. So we talk about healthcare, right? The healthcare is expensive for everybody, but especially in retirement. There's so many more choices now. You have to navigate Medicare. Do you do Med Advantage or Med Sup? What about long-term care? How's that going to affect your retirement? So, I mean, this is so important, and we have to address each of these items. How can somebody do that successfully? What do we do in our office to help folks?
Yeah, in fact, that's one of the things that we do a lot of questions about now. Those that have watched the show know that we live in the Seattle area, right? That's where our show plays. We deal with a lot of Boeing. I love working with Boeing retirees and people getting ready to retire. But one of the questions is they love their insurance. They've had great insurance over the years through their company.
That's true.
But what we've found is when they go to retire, that Medicare supplement plan that they have to pay for once they turn 65, it isn't the best deal out there. In fact, we very rarely ever keep it. We will usually move them to, I use United Healthcare's plan a lot. I love the Med Advantage plan. That's the one that I went on in my area a year ago. I love it because I pay no premium for that, but I've got small copays, and it's going to help me pick up all the things that can happen. We know Medicare is 80-20, right? And I need that 20% because 20% can lead to a financial bankruptcy if you're not covered in that area. So you've got to know what you're going to do. And then Casey just mentioned, what am I supposed to do when it comes to long-term care planning? I'm in this business because of that very thing. I watched, I call it the atom bomb. It could go off inside of your plan if you have not addressed long-term care. It is going to be the one area that will probably completely devastate your plan if you don't have a way to cover that cost, because it is expensive, and you've got to figure out how are you going to deal with that in retirement.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a big expense, and it's something that most people obviously have never navigated that before. So it's almost kind of a cruel thing to make somebody start dealing with that at the end of their career, right? Because that's not what they focus on. It's not what they do day to day. But there's a lot to navigate, and so we take care of that for folks in-house, right? We help them figure out what those choices are, make sure that they're going down the right path. What about you, Brian? What would you add from a Medicare standpoint, long-term care, and how that's going to affect folks?
Let me address long-term care for a minute. Let's just be candid. Long-term care is expensive. I want another insurance premium like I want a root canal, right? We have homeowners insurance, we have auto insurance, we have life insurance, we have disability insurance. I don't want any more insurance premiums. But the probability that my house is going to burn down is so remote. or that I'm going to crash as I get older. Maybe that changes. But long story short,
I've seen you drive.
Yeah, you've seen me drive. But what the probability, unfortunately, that we're going to need some type of care is off the charts.
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me
Staggering
make
number.
one more comment. My grandfather used to say, if a problem is like an apple, if you try to swallow it whole, you're going to choke. If you take a bite of it at a time, it's good for you. So maybe when you look at long-term care, you don't get the premium that is outside your budget. Let's choose a premium that works in your budget, whatever that may be, and you will have made progress towards slaying that dragon, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's critical.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we address it accordingly as to what's appropriate in the situation, right? Because nobody wants any more insurance premiums, like you said, right? Neither do the three of us. But ultimately, if you don't come up with a plan, if you don't have a plan to deal with long-term care, the state's got one for you, and you're not going to like it. Right? That's the deal.
Yeah.
So it's up to you. You get to decide how you address it. You want to add something?
Yeah,
Mark?
I was just going to say that probably the biggest hurdle that we find when we're trying to discuss this with clients is they don't feel that it's going to happen to them.
Right.
Brian just talked about if 75 out of 100 of us are going to use some form of long-term care before we pass away, that's a number that if you just stick your head in the sand, you better hope and pray that you're one of the 25. And it is a very high likelihood that's not going to be the case. And it was definitely the case in my household. So I know the other issue is we don't think it's going to happen to us, but they also believe because of the expense, if I don't use it, I've lost all that money.
Right.
But what they don't understand is there's some very cool plans out today that if you don't use it, you don't lose it. The death benefit is going to be passed on to your spouse or your children. So you can get coverage actually, which is pretty cool, and not have to pay an ongoing premium for it. You make a one-time lump sum and you're done. So there's different ways to skin that cat now that we all need to be thinking about. There's ways to do it.
And that's what it boils down to, is having a conversation, right? And so
exactly.
For our folks at home, as always, for our first 5 callers, we have a special offer for you. Please give us a shout. We'd love to put together a written financial plan by our team of certified financial planners. That's going to address the risk that you're taking, like we've been talking about today. It's also going to address the income that you have set up for retirement. Is that income sufficient? Do you need more income? And if so, how do we produce it? It's going to address health care as well. So what are you going to do about Medicare, Med Advantage, MedSup? What about long-term care? As we mentioned, if you don't come up with a plan, the state's got one for you, and I promise you're not going to like it. When we come back, we're going to talk more about these areas that we need to address, but pick up that phone. It's a complimentary, no obligation written financial plan. 844-342-7142. The number's on the screen. Scan the QR code. Again, as I mentioned, when we come back, we're going to discuss 2 more areas. Taxes and estate planning. Don't change the channel. We'll be right here on Elevate Your Wealth.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there every square. Happy birthday to you. As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion even...
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Hello and welcome back to Elevate Your Wealth. Again, I'm Casey Elkins, joined by Mark Stimson and Brian Frucci. We're talking about the 5 key areas that we need to make sure to address so that you can have a successful retirement. Now, we've already hit the first 3. We want to get into this next one, and it's everybody's favorite, taxes, right? Everybody's looking forward to paying taxes. There's lots of discussion surrounding that, legislation changes, governmental changes, all those kind of things. We're going to leave that out of today's show, but we do want to address taxes and how that's going to affect your retirement. So Mark, let me ask you, when it comes to taxes, why is this such an important piece for retirees especially to understand and have a plan for?
This is an area that really is one of the first things that we'll address with a client, because most of them have some form of qualified plan. They're going to have a 401k, really, but they don't understand that there's a mortgage attached to that plan. I had a client come in, a week ago, and he totally believed that all the money, and he worked at Boeing, all the money inside his 401k was his. He thought it was going to be tax-free when he pulled it out. He has no Roth part of the plan. Now, Boeing does offer a Roth provision, right? He doesn't have that. So
we wish that's how it works.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
If I could get everybody to go back in time, we would say use the Roth only, right, for the tax reasons, right? So planning and thinking about Roth conversion right now is a big thing in our office, because we're trying to show our clients how important paying tax now at most likely the lowest rate that they're going to see in their lifetime makes a lot of sense. The problem is so many clients don't want to face that, that gorilla, right? They don't want to get it off their back. They'd rather delay it as long as possible. And we're trying to educate them to show them if they do that, they're going to end up with a lot less money in their pocket than they should have, because they want to delay paying taxes. And taxes, we know, are going up. So if you don't have a plan for this, it's going to be a mistake. We believe there's no two ways about it. It's not an if and or a but, it's when. And realistically, you got a short period of time, because we know everything is going to sunset. Trump's plan sunsets at the end of 25, and it may not even last that long.
Right.
We know changes are coming, and they could come this year if we're not careful.
Right. And we don't even need to talk about why we think taxes are going up, because I think everybody's under that assumption, and rightfully so. But what it really boils down to is retirees have to address this, right? This has to be a part of the plan, reducing the taxes that are going to be owed on your accounts. And Mark, as you mentioned, there's a mortgage on that account, right? You have a silent partner. And I got news for the folks at home, right? That silent partner, they make all the rules. That's the deal. They get to change the rules whenever they want. So let me ask you a question. Would you play a game with somebody who, on the other side, your opponent potentially, gets to make all the rules and change them whenever they like? I'm sure that you'd say no. I'd say no to that. I know you guys would. But ultimately, when it comes to a 401k or an IRA, that's what we've done to a great extent, right? We have an investment that we don't get to control how much we actually get when we take the money out, and we don't get to change any of the rules or have any say on any of it. And so we've got to address that and make sure that we're handling it properly in retirement. You want to add something to that, Brian?
Well, I think it's very clear that I love my country. I'm exceedingly patriotic, but either side of the aisle likes to spend money. I think we can all agree with that. With a $30+ trillion debt, they're going to be looking somewhere to help offset that debt. And the amount of money that are in 401ks, 403bs is huge with regard to people who are getting ready to retire. It's kind of a no-brainer that they are going to go after some of those funds.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't plan for that, you're going to have trouble. If you don't, and again, a lot of brokers really don't want to dive into that. And I think that's important to do so. Mayo Clinic just did a recent study that if when people come to the Mayo Clinic to get a second opinion, 66% end up with a change in their original diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
And so again, getting a second opinion is critical. Critical.
And you got to get it from the person that you can't get it from the same person that gave you the first opinion, right? You got to get that second opinion elsewhere.
And that's what we specialize in. That's what we love to do, is to give you a second opinion, no obligation, drill down onto the things that are going to be, that we know, being in the business for decades, that we know are going to be potential trip falls, and how to help you avoid those. Some we can't. This tax situation is, we can't dodge the bullet on it, but we can prepare for it, we can anticipate it, and we can make changes in the type of income where we're taking it out and do it judiciously.
Yeah, very good, very good. So, we've got one more that we want to hit. We want to make sure we give all of it to the folks at home as much as we can. And so the last one is putting together an estate plan. Why is that so important, Mark?
Yeah, I've had trust and estate planning a part of my practice now for close to 40 years, and I'm a big believer in trust. We need to leave the assets that we've built up and worked our life to accumulate in the best possible way to our children. So if I can help my client find a way to eliminate the attorneys and the courts from taking any of those funds, that's what I want to do. And a trust will allow you to do that. It keeps everything from going through probate. And a wonderful thing that's happening right now is the trust that we're doing. I went on the bandwagon with this company about 5 years ago. It's totally different because now the trust is going into the cloud. And everybody may say, okay, that's a problem. What if somebody breaks in? Well, what I will share with you is this. You will never have to pay an attorney again if you ever want to update your powers of attorney, your medical directives. Maybe you have a child born, a grandchild. Maybe you switch properties in where you live, right? They need to be updated in the trust. And so having a plan to deal with these changes is important. And I'm a big believer in wanting my clients to be able to do that themselves versus either trying to find the attorney that originally did the trust, which could be gone, and nobody else will touch the trust now. So again, it's an important piece to a true written and good, solid financial plan.
Right. And what it really boils down to, these 5 key areas, right? We've talked about protecting what you've saved, having an income plan, dealing with health care and long-term care, reducing your taxes, and having an estate plan. Those are key areas for retirement, right? Those are key areas to a successful retirement. And those are key areas that we hit every day because our goal is for everybody to have a successful retirement. So that being said, again, we have a special offer. Mark, would you share that with the folks at home?
For the next 5 callers, you're probably, if you've watched this whole show, it's created maybe some concerns or some anxiety. You may not have a trust. You may not have done any protection of your assets, right? You're worried about the market blowing up like it is right now. If any of those are your concerns, please pick up the phone and call 844-342-7142. If you've saved at least $250,000 or more, please pick up the phone, and we're going to have your plan developed by a team of certified financial planners. That's 844-342-7142.
Thank you very much, Mark. Again, it's always nice to be here with you too. Brian, nice to have you join us today. For our folks at home, we always love having you with us. We talk about retirement each and every week because we know that that's the concern. And today what we've put together, these 5 key areas, that's what's top of mind for all retirees. And my question is to you, are you going to be okay in retirement? I know you've thought about it. I know it's something that you're concerned about. Now's the time to do something about it. Pick up the phone, give us a call. The number's on the screen. Use the QR code. Don't hesitate. It's complimentary, no obligation. We'd love to see you back here next week, right here on Elevate Your Wealth.